She was the love of my life until I discovered she'd been secretly seeing my best friend for 6 months, the heartbreaking moment that shattered my trust forever. It's crazy how your life can fall apart in just one day. For me, it happened on a rainy Tuesday in November of 2018, a day that will forever be burned into my mind. It was the day my heart shattered and my entire world collapsed. I had been dating Emma for almost 3 years. We met in college during sophomore year. She was everything I could have ever asked for: smart, funny, beautiful, and we just clicked. She was my best friend and my girlfriend, all rolled into one perfect package. We'd talk about our future together, moving in after college, maybe even getting a dog. Life was good. At least I thought it was. My best friend Jake had been part of the equation long before Emma came along. He was the type of guy you could trust with your life. We grew up together, went to the same high school, and even shared a dorm in college. Jake and I had been through thick and thin, and I never once questioned his loyalty. But little did I know that the two most important people in my life were hiding something from me, something that would crush me. The first time I noticed things getting weird was around the start of my senior year. Emma and Jake had always been friendly, but suddenly it felt like their conversations were a bit too comfortable. They'd laugh at inside jokes that I wasn't in on, and I'd catch them exchanging glances that I couldn't quite decipher. At first, I brushed it off. I mean, Jake was my best friend, and Emma was my girlfriend, two people I trusted more than anyone. There was no reason to think otherwise, right? But slowly, little things started to add up. Emma would cancel plans with me last minute, saying she had to study or wasn't feeling well. Jake was more distant too. We used to hang out every weekend, but suddenly he was busy all the time. I didn't think much of it at the time, chalking it up to school stress and senior year burnout. But my gut was telling me something was off. The moment everything came crashing down was one night when Emma said she was going out with some friends from class. She'd been doing that a lot lately, spending less time with me and more with them. I figured it was just her way of coping with the pressures of finishing school. So I stayed in, figuring I'd catch up on some video games and relax for the evening. Jake was supposed to be working late that night, so I didn't think much of it when I saw his car wasn't in the driveway. But as the hours passed, I started to feel uneasy. Something just wasn't sitting right with me. I had this gnawing feeling in the pit of my stomach, and before I knew it, I was pacing around the apartment like a madman. I called Emma around 9 p.m. to see how her night was going. No answer. I called again 10 minutes later, still nothing. My anxiety started to build, but I told myself I was just being paranoid. Emma wasn't the type to ignore my calls, and Jake, he was probably just working overtime. At around 11:30 p.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my keys and decided to drive over to the bar Emma had mentioned earlier. Maybe I'd surprise her, show up with a smile, and prove to myself that everything was fine. As I drove, my mind raced with thoughts I didn't want to entertain. What if Emma wasn't with her friends? What if she was with someone else? What if Jake wasn't at work? I shook my head, trying to push the doubts away. When I got to the bar, it was nearly empty. A few stragglers sat at the counter, nursing their drinks. I scanned the room, hoping to see Emma's familiar face, but she wasn't there. I asked the bartender if he had seen her, but he shook his head, saying no one by that description had been in all night. My heart sank. I was about to head home, defeated, when I remembered Jake's apartment was just a few blocks away. Maybe he was home after all, and I could talk to him. Maybe he could calm my irrational fears. I pulled up to Jake's building and saw his car in the driveway. Relief flooded me for a moment, but that relief was short-lived when I noticed something. Emma's car was parked right next to his. My hands started shaking as I sat there in my car, staring at their vehicles side by side. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. Maybe they're just hanging out, I tried to tell myself, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. I got out of the car and walked toward Jake's apartment. My feet felt like lead, and every step made my heart pound louder in my ears. When I reached his door, I paused, taking a deep breath before knocking. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. I stood there for what felt like an eternity before my hand moved to the door handle, and to my surprise, it wasn't locked. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside. And there they were. Jake and Emma, wrapped in each other's arms, asleep on the couch. I can't describe the wave of emotions that hit me all at once. Shock, anger, betrayal, heartbreak. My legs gave out, and I collapsed to the floor, the sound of my knees hitting the ground startling them awake. Emma gasped, her eyes wide with panic, as she scrambled to sit up. Jake looked just as horrified, his face drained of all color. They both tried to speak, but I couldn't hear them over the sound of my heart breaking into a million pieces. How long? I managed to choke out. Neither of them answered at first, their eyes darting between each other and me. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. 6 months. 6 months. They had been seeing each other behind my back for half a year. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My best friend and my girlfriend had been lying to me for months, sneaking around while I was none the wiser. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch Jake in the face, to make them feel the pain they had just inflicted on me. But I couldn't. All I could do was sit there, staring at the two people I thought I could trust more than anyone else in the world, wondering how it had all gone so horribly wrong. Jake tried to explain. He said it had started as a mistake. One drunken night where things went too far. They didn't mean for it to happen, but after that night, they couldn't stop. They told themselves they'd break it off, but the more they saw each other, the harder it became to let go. Emma was crying now, begging me to understand. She said she didn't want to hurt me, that she still cared about me, but she couldn't deny the feelings she had for Jake. I couldn't listen to any more of it. I stood up, my legs unsteady beneath me, and without saying another word, I walked out of the apartment. That was the last time I ever spoke to either of them. In the weeks that followed, I moved out of the apartment I shared with Jake and cut off all contact with both him and Emma. The pain was unbearable. I felt like I had lost everything. My best friend, my girlfriend, and the future I had imagined with them. For a long time, I didn't think I'd ever get over it. I replayed that night over and over in my head, wondering how I could have been so blind. I blamed myself, thinking maybe if I had been a better boyfriend or a better friend, none of this would have happened. But eventually, I realized that their betrayal wasn't a reflection of me. It was a reflection of them. They made their choices, and I had no control over that. It took time, but I started to heal. I threw myself into my work, reconnected with old friends, and focused on rebuilding my life. And slowly, the pain began to fade. I've learned a lot from that experience, about trust, about forgiveness, and about the importance of putting yourself first. I'm still not sure if I'll ever fully trust someone again, but I'm working on it. And one day, I'll be ready to love again.
Second story.
My wife's platonic friendship with her ex is making me question everything. I, 35M, have been married to my wife, Anna, 33F, for 5 years. We've had a pretty solid relationship overall, and I've never doubted her love for me. But lately, there's been a situation with her ex-boyfriend, Ben, 34M, that's making me feel uncomfortable, and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting. Anna and Ben dated for about 2 years in their mid-20s, and they broke up a few years before she and I met. From what she's told me, their relationship was never super serious. It ended because they realized they were better as friends than romantic partners. She's always been upfront about the fact that they've stayed friends. But I didn't think much of it. After all, I don't want to be the type of husband who tells his wife she can't talk to someone from her past. I have a few friends who are exes too, so I figured it was just normal. But over the past few months, Ben has been showing up in Anna's life more and more. It started with the occasional text or phone call, which didn't bother me at first. Then it escalated to them meeting up for coffee or lunch once or twice a month. Anna always told me when they were meeting, and she didn't seem like she was hiding anything, so I trusted her. However, things have recently taken a turn. Ben went through a bad breakup a few months ago, and ever since, he's been leaning heavily on Anna for emotional support. He started calling her more often, sometimes late at night, and sending her long, emotional texts about how hard the breakup has been for him. Anna's a naturally caring person, so she's been there for him, but it's starting to feel like she's prioritizing his needs over our relationship. The other day, she told me Ben had asked her to come over to his place to help him talk through his feelings. That rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't say anything at first because I didn't want to seem controlling, but when she said she was planning on going, I finally spoke up. I told her I wasn't comfortable with her spending time alone with her ex at his place, especially when he's clearly emotionally vulnerable. Anna got defensive and said that Ben is just a friend and he needs someone to talk to. She assured me there was nothing romantic going on and that I had nothing to worry about. But to me, it feels like this is crossing a boundary. I trust my wife, but I don't trust Ben's intentions. I know what it's like to go through a breakup, and it's hard not to wonder if Ben is using this situation to get closer to her. The other night, I overheard Anna on the phone with Ben for nearly an hour while I was in the other room. She was talking him through his feelings, telling him everything was going to be okay, and even reminiscing about some of their old memories to cheer him up. That's when my jealousy really started to kick in. Why is she spending so much emotional energy on her ex when she could be putting that energy into our relationship? I tried bringing it up again, and Anna reassured me that her relationship with Ben is strictly platonic. She said she doesn't want to abandon a friend in need and that I should trust her. But this situation is making me feel uneasy. I don't want to be the insecure husband who tells his wife who she can and can't be friends with, but I also don't want to sit by while this friendship with her ex keeps growing stronger. At what point do I say enough is enough? Am I overreacting, or are my feelings valid here? How do I tell Anna that her relationship with Ben is crossing a line without coming off as controlling or jealous? Update. Thank you to everyone who took the time to comment and give me advice. I've read through a lot of the responses, and they really helped me get some perspective on the situation. After sitting with my feelings for a few days, I decided it was time to have a serious conversation with Anna. I told her that while I trust her, I don't trust the dynamic that's forming between her and Ben. I explained that I felt like the emotional support she's giving him is starting to take a toll on our relationship, and that it's not just about jealousy, it's about boundaries. Anna listened, and to her credit, she didn't dismiss my feelings this time. She admitted that she hadn't realized how much time and energy she was devoting to Ben, and that maybe she had been a little too invested in helping him through his breakup. She agreed that their friendship needed clearer boundaries, and she promised to take a step back and make sure our relationship stays the priority. She also said she understood why I felt uncomfortable with the idea of her going to Ben's place alone. And she's decided to keep their interactions to more neutral settings, like meeting for coffee occasionally instead of spending time together at his apartment. I feel a lot better after our conversation, but I'm still going to keep an eye on the situation. I want to believe that this will be the end of the issue, but I also know that sometimes these things don't resolve overnight. For now, I'm hopeful that we're on the same page and that this was just a bump in the road. Thanks again for all the advice. It really helped me navigate a tough situation.